Substance addiction. This is one of the oldest and most recognized forms of addiction, involving physical and psychological dependence on a chemical substance. It includes alcohol, nicotine, prescription medications, and illegal drugs like heroin or cocaine. What makes substance addiction particularly powerful is how it rewires the brain's reward system. Over time, the brain begins to treat the substance as a basic need, similar to food or water, and without it, the body reacts with withdrawal symptoms that can range from discomfort to life-threatening crisis. Alcohol addiction. It often develops slowly, which is part of what makes it so dangerous. A person can move from casual drinking to dependency over months or years without noticing the shift. Alcohol affects the central nervous system, and regular heavy use causes the brain to chemically adapt. When drinking stops suddenly, the brain struggles to rebalance, sometimes causing seizures or severe anxiety. It is one of the few addictions where withdrawal itself can be fatal without medical supervision. Nicotine addiction. Nicotine is among the most chemically addictive substances known. Despite being legal and widely available, it reaches the brain within seconds of inhalation, triggering a small but fast release of dopamine. The body adjusts to expect this stimulation regularly, and without it, irritability, difficulty concentrating, and restlessness follow quickly. Many people who smoke know the health risks well, and still find quitting extremely difficult, which illustrates how separate knowledge and addiction truly are. Prescription drug addiction. This type often begins with a legitimate medical need. A person is prescribed painkillers after surgery or anxiety medication after a difficult period. And over time, the body builds tolerance, requiring more of the drug to feel the same effect. The transition from patient to dependent happens gradually and can feel invisible. Opioid prescriptions in particular have driven significant addiction crises in multiple countries, affecting people across all income levels and backgrounds. Caffeine addiction, it is easy to dismiss because it is so normalized, but caffeine dependence is a genuine physiological condition. Regular caffeine use causes the brain to reduce its natural production of certain stimulating chemicals, making the person reliant on caffeine to feel alert. Missing the usual morning dose often brings headaches, fatigue, and low mood within hours. While its consequences are far less severe than most other addictions, the mechanism behind it is strikingly similar. Gambling addiction. Unlike substance addictions, this one involves no chemical being introduced to the body. Yet the brain responds in almost identical ways. Winning, or even nearly winning, triggers a dopamine surge that the brain quickly learns to chase. Gambling disorder is classified as a behavioral addiction and is taken seriously in clinical settings. The unpredictability of gambling outcomes actually intensifies the compulsion, since the brain finds random rewards more stimulating than predictable ones. Internet and social media addiction. This has become one of the most widespread behavioral addictions of the modern era. Platforms are deliberately designed to keep users engaged using variable reward systems, the same mechanism that makes gambling compelling. Scrolling, likes, and notifications provide constant micro-stimulation. Over time, people find it difficult to sit with boredom, be present in conversations, or focus on a single task without reaching for their phone. The addiction is real, but the environment actively encourages it. Gaming addiction. Video games are built around progression, reward, and challenge in ways that engage the brain's motivation systems deeply. For most people, this is simply entertainment, but for some, it becomes compulsive. The person continues playing despite sleep deprivation, neglected responsibilities, and damaged relationships. Gaming addiction was officially recognized by the World Health Organization in 2019, which brought both clarity and ongoing debate about where healthy enthusiasm ends and disorder begins. Food addiction. Certain foods, particularly those high in sugar, fat, and salt, can trigger reward responses in the brain that resemble those caused by drugs. Food addiction is not about hunger. It is about compulsive consumption, driven by emotional need, habit, or neurological response. The brain begins associating particular foods with comfort or relief, and eating them becomes less about nourishment and more about managing internal states. This overlap between addiction and eating behavior makes it one of the more complex areas in behavioral health. Shopping addiction. Also called compulsive buying disorder, this addiction centers on the act of purchasing rather than the items bought. The anticipation of buying often feels more powerful than the purchase itself. Many people with this addiction accumulate items they never use and experience guilt or shame afterward. Yet the cycle repeats. It tends to intensify during emotional stress, functioning as a temporary escape rather than a solution to whatever discomfort triggered it. Sex and pornography addiction, these are distinct but often discussed together. Sex addiction refers to compulsive sexual behavior that continues despite negative consequences in relationships, work, or personal well-being. Pornography addiction specifically involves escalating consumption of sexual content online, often leading to desensitization and difficulty with real intimacy. Both remain areas of active debate within psychology, with some researchers questioning the addiction label, while many clinicians report consistent patterns that closely match other behavioral addictions. Work addiction. Often mistaken for ambition or dedication, work addiction involves compulsive overworking that cannot be turned off even when rest is available. The person feels restless, anxious, or purposeless outside of work. In cultures that celebrate productivity, this addiction is frequently rewarded externally even as it quietly damages health and relationships. The dopamine response tied to achievement and completion keeps the cycle running, and the consequences often only become visible during forced rest, such as illness or vacation. Exercise addiction. Physical activity is broadly considered beneficial, which is why this addiction is frequently overlooked. Exercise addiction involves compulsive training that continues despite injury, exhaustion, or clear harm to the body. It often connects to control, body image, or anxiety management. Missing a session causes disproportionate distress. The brain becomes dependent on the endorphin release exercise produces, and rest begins to feel like a threat rather than recovery. Love addiction. This type centers on the compulsive need for romantic connection, validation, and intensity. A person with love addiction does not simply enjoy relationships, they require them to feel stable. They may move quickly between intense relationships, stay in harmful ones out of fear of emptiness, or become consumed by the pursuit of a new romantic interest. The neurochemistry of early romantic attachment is genuinely similar to stimulant use, which give the addiction a biological foundation that goes beyond simple loneliness.